Hello everyone, hope you're doing fine. Today we are going to learn how to do top-down analysis using RichTL indicator. So I'm going to go over a step-by-step example on GBPAUD. I usually draw my levels and do price action analysis on daily and weekly time frame, then dive into H4 and H1 to look for potential setups and triggers. So we start with the weekly time frame by drawing our objective support and resistance. As I mentioned in my last videos, we simply draw a random line on our chart and drag and drop it in a way to connect at least 3 touches. So we start from the top. Here we can connect 3 dots, 1, 2, 3, and we always optimize it in a way to be a round number. So let's go for 3. Then we continue. Only 1 dot, only 2 dots. Here we can connect at least 3 dots, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's optimize it to be 2.7. Let's continue. Here we can draw a line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A very strong one. Let's make it 2.5. We continue. Here we can draw 1, 2, 3. Let's make it 2.3. Here we can connect only 1 dot here as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very strong one. Let's make it 1.75. We continue. A very strong one as well here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's make it 1.6. And we also have one here. Let's make it 1.45. So now we have our levels. We look for potential setups around those levels. Now we need to draw our trend lines or patterns. We need them objective as well, so we need at least 3 touches on our trend lines. We can draw one here, but let's remove it as it's already broken and it's old. So we can go and draw this one. 1, 2, 3 touches, right? And we also have this one, 1, 2, 3. Let's try and draw it. Let's make sure that this is not a candle close above our trend line. So let's make them precise. Here we go. It's not broken, so we can draw it. So now we know that price is ranging inside that giant symmetrical triangle on weekly time frame. Now after we are done with our levels and our patterns and trend lines, we can go and check if we have any divergence on MACD. Here we have an old one, but let's draw it anyway. I usually make it to only look on weekly time frame to not distract us on lower time frames. So here we have one, but it's old, it's okay. Here we have one as well. And if we zoom in, we can see that we have one here as well. MACD is making lower highs while price is making higher highs. Alright, so now we are done with our levels, our trend lines and patterns, and our divergence. Step 2, we dive into daily time frame and do exactly the same. We start with our levels. Here we can connect only 1 dot here, 1 dot here. Here we can connect 1, 2, 3, 4 dots. So let's make it a round number, 1.87. Let's continue. Here we can connect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's make it a round number. I usually like to make my resistance levels in blue and support levels in red. We even can draw a zone if our levels are close to each other. For example, like this. So now we have our zone, our resistance zone. So let's continue and find our support one. here we can connect 1, 2, alright, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's make it a round number, 1.72. And we already have one from weekly time frame, 1.75, 1, 2, 3, 4 dots. So let's make our support levels in red. And we also can draw a zone if our levels are very close to each other, like in this case. Let's make it in red. Alright, so here's our support and resistance zone. Now we have to draw our trend lines and objective patterns. I can see one trend line here, 1, 2, 3 dots. So let's draw this one. I usually like to draw my long-term trend lines in brown, but if I have one long-term trend line in weekly close to the one on daily, I usually draw it in orange. And I can see a projection of it around here to form like a channel, 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3 dots. Here's an objective channel. So what we have now is that GBPAUD is trading inside that giant symmetrical triangle and this channel in orange on daily time frame. So we can expect movement inside this channel until price gets to our symmetrical triangle to break it either way. Alright, so let's delete our lines, those ones. So now we have our zone and we have our trend lines. Can we draw anything else? 1, 2 dots, 1, 2 dots only. So those are the only objective trend lines we can draw here. Now we also check our MACD for divergence. Here we can have one. It's also old, but let's draw it anyway. So here we have that divergence. MACD is making higher lows and price is making lower lows. Here we have another one. Price is making higher highs and MACD is making lower highs. What else do we have? Here we have one. Price is making lower lows and MACD is making higher highs. So that's it for divergence. I don't see any fresh divergence here we can rely on for our setups. So that's for our daily time frame. So now we have our rejection levels and zones, and we did price action analysis on GBPAUD that it's going to trade inside this channel until it breaks outside the upper side or lower side of the channel or this long-term symmetrical triangle. So we'll be looking for short setups around here or long setups around here. As mentioned earlier, we dive into H4 and H1 to look for potential setups and triggers. So let's start with H4. First of all, we will be looking for long entries around here. This zone is already found using those dots, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can look for entries around this one, which is here. Here we have a head and shoulders pattern, as you can see. Head, left shoulder and right shoulder. We have a divergence and we have the rejection zone in red. Here's our last swing standing. So one confluence, two confluence, the pattern, and the divergence is our third confluence. Here's our last swing standing, and our entry would be a candle close above it. Let's take one more example. Here we have 1, 2, 3. We don't have any touch here to consider it our last swing standing. So we zoom to H1 as we will be looking for short setups when price breaks inside or outside this blue zone from the downside. So let's look for H1. On H4, yes, on H4 we have a divergence, so that's one more confluence. So on H1 We do have a divergence as well here. Price is making higher high while MACD is making lower highs. We have an objective trend line here, and we also have a head and shoulders. Head, left shoulder, right shoulder. So one confluence, second confluence is our trend line, third confluence is our blue rejection zone. We have divergence on H1 and divergence on H4 as well. We also have a potential setup here, objective trend line. We even have another one, a small one here, rejection of the blue area and a divergence. So 1, 2 and 3 confluences. An entry would be a candle close below this last swing standing. And as I mentioned last week, now we are waiting for GBPAUD to get to our blue zone to look for short setups, or to our red zone to look for long setups.